So, hello again, everyone. Next talk for me about EDevDay QA statistics. So, again, a little bit of agenda here. Give you a short introduction, and then I run through all the stuff where I collect any statistics from. So, Jenkins, Covariety, Clang, unit test, Fab review, Fab bugs, miscellaneous stuff, and then a little bit in the future. So, as introduction, so I started recording QA stats around July 2013. So every weekly report you get from me, these weekly report mails, I put into a spreadsheet, and then I started to collect a bit more. And there are still a lot of things missing, and every time I find out something that I actually wanted to record, I have to record it from that point on. So it's not everything there, but at least it's a start. So 50 months worth of recording. I think that's something we can have some insights from in what our QA stuff is going, or where is it failing. So we start with Jenkins. So I mean, Jenkins is one of the central elements here, because that is the automated stuff where all the builds are triggered from. So all the QA tools we are running, besides one, are running from Jenkins directly. So it normally gets built from every push. So not every commit, but if you do a push with whatever, 10 commits or something like that, it builds all 10 of them together. So there's no explicit one commit build or something, because that would go overboard, I would think. And the failure rates vary a lot. As you can see here, we are going from whatever 4% build failures up to 20 or more. That really depends. If you have one bug in there and that stays for a while because you can find out what the problem actually is, then there are a lot of bugs normally sneaking in behind that. And once you're fixing that one, there are a lot of other things that are just papered over, and it takes time to get back to the state where you can find it. On the other hand, if you have just one bug and you find it quite fast, that's easy, and then goes back to the normal state. And due to all the other builds we do over the day, then we have normally a very low failure rate. So it's not always static. It's often, but it's not always static. I mean, quite some of them are more or less like things when we forgot that we can't build for Windows and we rely on Jenkins for that, or things for special build configurations, so on. Not all of them are real build failures, like someone forget an include or something. So that's really different things. And they also fail if some test cases fail, or make disk check fails or something like that. So all the stuff that not everyone runs every time before pushing. So that's a lot of other things. That is why we have the automated testing. So I don't say it's a bad thing to have such high failure rates, but we obviously should try to resolve them quickly to not paper over all the other bugs we might have. Covariety. Yeah, as you can see, we started, so the blue one is EFL, orange is Elm, and yeah, yellow is E, and the other thing is terminology. As you can see, we started with EFL. I mean, it's the biggest code base you have. It's around 500 bucks. And we are down now, I think, to 50 or something like that, between 40 and 50. So on that, obviously you can see here, that one was just before the 1.11 release, when Rasta got a serious Covariety addiction and started to get all the stuff sorted out. So, yeah, he said it before. I mean, this doesn't mean if you are down to zero that we don't have bugs. We have a lot of other bugs, bug classes, logic bugs, and so on. But this thing really helps us to get a lot of these things that might show up in production or in user testing or so we can really avoid that. And I mean, I would say from a feeling like 1 out of 10 reported bugs from Covariety are really serious things we really missed. And the other 9 are mostly things like whatever leaks in error passes and stuff like that. So things that are okay but not so serious. But 1 out of 10, I would think, is really something where we're really looking at, shit, we really screwed up here. So I think that's a good thing. Yeah, as I said, elementary, emotion, generic players, and terminology are already at 0. So that's a good thing. The other ones are not far away. So we have around 50 for Enlightenment, 50 for EFL, and around 40 for Enlightenment left. So the one spark you can see here, that one was when there was a bug in an EO macro. So and all the generated code had the bug, and then it showed up with 120 bugs in Covariety. And once the macro was fixed, it was down again. So nothing you can do about it when recording. So Yeah, so really good if you could get all the numbers down to 0, just for the reason that we then can only have a look at the new ones coming in. I mean, we're sending out mails to the eBorg mailing list to show up if new reports are coming in. But if you can really bring it down to 0, and then we have a big code drop from whatever. We have seen eMesh coming in, for example. Whatever, EO mesh, and there was instantly 5 new bugs there. So that's something we can really, once we are down to 0, we can really point the people out to that and then bring it down again. So, I mean, we have seen a lot of the commits, these commits, not all of them are worth fixing, but in terms of bringing it down, you can also mark them as false positives or something like that, or ignore in the web UI, so that's something we can do as well. But please be sure if you do that you don't, I mean, because it will be get ignored for all the upcoming runs. Make sure you know that. So on the other hand, we have also CLang, which has a static analyzer built in. They have a script called scanbuild to do that. We're also running that for a long time. But you can see that that is not really going down as Covariety does. So there are 2 things out of that. One is that nobody really takes a look, because they're really complicated to look at the reports. I mean, they are generated HTML pages. You have no interaction or something like that. So you don't have a web UI like on Covariety where you can mark issues as false positives, ignore them, or just get more feedback or something like that. You only have the generated HTML report. So that is one of the problems. And the other thing is they seem to have a complete different type of bugs they are finding compared to Covariety. Because I was thinking when we are going down with Covariety, we would get a lot less bugs in CLang as well, but we don't. So obviously there is a small overlap, but not a big one as I expected. And a lot of these bugs from EFL, I think 200 out of these 450 or so are memory leak reports. And a lot of these, on the other hand, are something that Clang does not really understand how we are handling stuff with adding something to a hash, adding something to a list, and then passing over the responsibility to free the stuff and so on. So it doesn't really follow that. I don't know how we can improve on that, besides maybe hacking on CLang also, but I don't really want to go in that way. So that's something hard to get down, I think. So I'm still have it running, that's not a problem, it just runs in the background, and I see why people are not touching that, but don't expect these numbers to go down any soon. So.
Do any tools or anything exist to just tell it to ignore these and continue to ignore?
Okay, there are 2 things for that. I think there is some magic you can put in the code, just some comments or so, to let CLang know, yeah, we know about that, but that is wrong. I think they have some annotations for that. I don't know the details, but I heard about it. And there's another thing that was a Google Summer of Code project from this year, where there was a student assigned to build a more interactive web UI for that one, so you can actually track the state of the different issues and so on. So you have something web-based for that. But I don't know what the state of that is. I have looked into it, and I've seen that there's a patch uploaded to Google Summer of Code, but I have no idea if that gets integrated into the code base or not. So I will follow that. A colleague of mine is working with LLVM, so I poke him from time to time, and maybe he will let me know if they have something. So if something like that comes up, I think it might get a useful tool again.
Actually, Apple is using Clang in Xcode, in interactive mode. So when you type, it does analysis in real time and gives you the report and provide you with the way to correct your code in real time.
Yes.
So this way, you can mark also when it's a false positive in the UI of your IDE. So that's basically why there is no tool like that, because Apple is behind LLVM and Clang.
Yeah.
And their way of using it is via Xcode.
Do you know if they use kind of some attributes in the codes to mark it as go away or so?
It's not in the code.
So it's all in the Xcode thing.
It's somewhere in the
okay.
file.
So so that means that the thing we have, the generated reports at HTML output, is just another interface to the library Xcode is using. So okay, we will see. Maybe there's something coming up. I mean, it doesn't really matter because we are building with Clang anyway to see that is working. So that means it will run in the background and will just collect the things and that's it. So I mean, but I really think that it's not as good as Covariety. So I mean, I don't like from Covariety that it's not open source, but it's really great service they're offering. So okay, so next thing, unit testing. Yeah, that is the sad story here, I would say. So we have around a little bit below 40% coverage of our code base, and that is with around 400 test cases we have at the moment. You can see it going down once we disabled the C++ bindings per default, and we enabled them again, and so on. So it goes up and down. But normally we are raising in really tiny steps, and with a few test cases getting added every week or 2 weeks or so. So, but I think that's really a serious problem from a QA perspective. I understand that from a normal open source project, community thing, I wouldn't even bother. Because that is something people just start to use your code, and once there's a bug, they report it and so on. But if you want to really go beyond that and go to users and products and ship it for whatever company, it really gets kind of a problem, because then you have to do all the testing internally and so on. If you can do as an upstream project, improve on that, could really help all these companies or people or just distributions also to avoid doing all this testing. So, so what could we do to improve the situation? We need manpower to actually cover all the stuff we have at the moment. As I said, 40%. So just going over that, then we have 400 test cases for 40%. That means we need 600 more test cases to code 100. That is quite a bit. So that is quite some serious manpower, even if you don't need that much. But we can refactor and rework this kind of things. But still a lot of manpower we need there. It would also be good to really have it mandatory for new APIs coming in to have test cases for that. I mean, that is mostly EFL what I'm speaking about here. Elementary is a different thing. I'll come to that in a moment. But really, if you bring in a new API in EFL, it really should be mandatory to have test cases for that. Because if we are not doing that, we are just running behind it forever. Yeah, for elementary, that is really more UI-centric, as it should be. We have exactness for that. Tom started to integrate it with Jenkins, but at some point he stopped because it was really getting complicated. But that is something we really should resume. So if anybody is want to help out with that, or no idea if Tom had some spare time to get to that or so, because that would be really good. We have some exactness testing for Edge, but not for elementary.
So actually exactness works nicely. I mean, the integration and all that. The problem is in elementary we just don't test well. So the
okay. Okay, so then we need to change that one.
Yeah, we do stuff like show the file selector on /tmp. We show with Jenkins. So like
okay, yeah, but that's something we can fix as well. I mean, I'm just saying that we really, if we want to test elementary better, really exactness should be one big part of it. To really, I mean, that way we can make sure that we have, after a commit coming in, that we don't broke all the widgets or just slightly broke it or so. So that would be really something on the elementary side.
Well, also one of the things we can do with elementary is that we start to have applications using elementary. And I don't know if Daniel is done with SPO again, but we can extract the EFL code from this application and run them through exactness as a check.
Okay.
So every time we do a release, we will have a full check of all the applications we are using that are using EFL.
Yeah.
We have no regression. Because, for example, on 1.11 right now, Calabas is broken. And
I'm not surprised. I mean, that is what I said. I mean, we can only test that much, so that is really...
Yeah. So we basically, we need to have a way to also test application. That's open source application or at least that are using EFL.
Yeah, okay, so different things here. I just want to go ahead. So if anybody has ideas or want to discuss that, really, I think we need more than just 1 or 2 people behind that to bring that forward. That is really a big thing. And we really, if we want to change it moving forward, we really have to be a bit more strict, like having API test cases for new APIs and so on. Something I was also thinking about, I don't think we are ready for that yet, is have regression tests. So once you found a bug, Tom does it, for example. Tom is a good example there. Once you found the bug in text block or something like that, he normally writes a test case for it to verify that his fix actually does it, and then actually commits the test case as well. That's something we could do as well, so we can see that the bugs are not sneaking in again and so on. But that's just a different type of test case. So.
Actually, we asked the requirement center to create 6,000 test cases for the API.
Okay.
Based on the hardware, and also we will replace the hardware to C-check by end of this year, and then they will submit these 6,000 test cases, unit test cases to upstream.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't put your hope too high. Because something is gone. Because the
The white one, no, down the bottom.
Down bottom.
You switch desktops.
Switch it.
Down there. No, turn left.
Turn left.
Down the bottom. See the white.
Pager.
What?
Pager.
No,
Pager.
turn left.
Okay.
Virtual desktops, man.
You're such fancy guys around here. Okay.
These test cases are mostly API tests.
Yes.
Basically,
Yeah.
giving a valid object and giving null, and that's it.
Okay.
So it's not going to increase our coverage that much. I think.
Mhm. So only the entry points for the APIs normally. Okay.
Yes.
And then they will create the interface as well from next January, maybe.
Okay. It would be good if you can get them in touch with me so we can just talk over it a bit. I mean, I don't have a complete master plan for that. I just want to get my input on that so we can work together and getting it. So it would be good if you can make a contact there. So
Okay, I will sure.
okay, thank you. Okay, so Fab review. Once we started with Fab, I was a bit unhappy about it because I didn't thought it was a really good system. But by now, I'm fine. I'm happy with using it. Just want to say that. So the review system actually works quite good. So I was surprised when pulling out these numbers. So we have like over 1,500 reviews or commits coming in as review requests, and we only have around 60 open. That's really good work, I would say there. And a lot of them are actually reviewed and waiting for a new spin of the patch or so. So that's even less than. There are some corner cases where you have to be careful if you're doing the reviewing stuff. Really always, before you push it out, please have a look at Git show. I made the mistake myself and other people did it. So one thing is that sometimes the ID they're showing there is just the ID from Fab showing up in the web UI, and that doesn't mean that it really is correctly set up with Git config and stuff like that. We had problems with white space changes because they have been not put into the web view because they have been just noise for them, but the default setting should be fine now, so we should see all the white space change. But still, please always have a look at Git show before pushing them out because we have seen a bit of screw ups there. With the new Fab we have, there's a way to hook it up with Jenkins, or at least there should be. So we could, if someone is interested in working on that, we could have a hook running there, taking the patch, putting it on latest EFL, building it with our Jenkins jobs, and then reporting that feedback to the system. That could be automated once it got uploaded, and then the reviewer could take that one and then go and test it. And all the things that failed before, you can just easily reject or something like that. I don't know how easy that is and so on, but that could be something to improve the situation even more. Okay, so our bugs. Yeah, not that much to talk about it. 1,700, around 400 open, but out of them 180 are wishlist bugs. So that's something we can't really do that much. Excuse me, can't do that much about it. Besides that, we are steadily increasing. Yeah, but we only have that much time to work on this. So, at least my feeling is that the serious high and showstopper bugs are still in a normal range of whatever, 1 to 20 or so, really depending on the cycle of the release, maybe even 30 or something. But everything below that might be more. But the really serious ones, I think we at least have a look at them. So I don't know if your feelings are different there, but I tried to run through some of them, but yeah. So the weekly report mail I'm doing for QA stuff, is this still interesting to people, or is this more like noise and people just ignore them? That's one question I have. Should I change something with it? Should I add more statistics or something? So if anybody is going into the scripting web stuff or so all the services we have should have some kind of JSON API or something, so we could even pull even more statistics out of it. So if anybody wants to do that, just get in touch with me. I'm hurrying up a bit here. Improvements. So the API checker is something I wanted to integrate with Jenkins for a while now. Tom has all the other things set up for that, so I only need to hook it up. No, I need to hook it up to Jenkins. So that is, he did the work there. Yeah, I hope I come to that at some point. There are more sanitized options from GCC and Clang nowadays, so more checker for memory corruptions, memory leaks, and thread stuff, and so on. It would be also interesting maybe to have someone working on ARM builds for Jenkins, so looking into having a QEMU build set up.
I could have sworn you have an ARM QEMU.
Yeah, we have all that. The problem is that
we even have an ARM server.
yeah, the real problem here is that I need to have one looking after that. For example, Daniel is looking into doing the builds for FreeBSD, which would be for more BSDs as well, and he will take care about the slave builds there and being kind of the maintainer for that. So that would be out of my scope. And that would be the same for the ARM builds or something. I would need someone to look after that. That is mostly the point. It's not like I can handle all these things together. So that is what I'm mostly asking for. There's also something like benchmarking. We have E3 as a server who has a dedicated GPU, and we can strip it down to a way where we can have somehow working benchmarking there, if I'm correctly. So that would be something we could get running as well. If you want, just ask Cedric about it. Exactness already mentioned. BSD, Windows, macOS. So BSD is something Daniel's looking into. Windows, we have the cross compilation right now. I think that's all we have besides maybe running Wine to execute the tests. macOS is something I heard about that we might have some people interested in hooking it up as a slave and running and building it there. Yes, in one of the last sentences, it seems that QA work is not really a lot of interest to the community. I can understand that because it's quite boring work and it's not like really exciting stuff you want to do after your normal work hours. But that's something still where I think that companies that are using it for their products or something like that might be interested to help out with, because they could avoid a lot of internal testing for that if they want. I mean, I'm open if anybody has ideas about that. But if we keep going like we do at the moment, it will really only improve slowly. So I don't see how it go. We can make a big leap here or something. So it would really, if you're running it, using it in any products or something like that, and you want to leverage the QA we are doing to cut down your own testing, it could be a deal. That's it. Thank you, guys. Any questions? Okay, so, oh, sorry, go ahead.
About testing is on system what unused main developers, Windows and Mac OS.
Yeah.
I think in the next year we can solve this because
Okay.
the feature was supported in Windows and others.
Okay.
There is some work going on there.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, when I wrote the slides, I mean, that's always something I don't know at that point. So, I mean, there might come something up, but that's one of the areas where we really need to improve, because most of the developers are not using it. I mean, Daniel is really an example here that he's using FreeBSD and stuff like that, because none of us does as well. Normally, we just use Linux and that's it. So, obviously, that's a really narrow case we are testing. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Next one.